Good evening, everybody. I want to share with you my passion, which is maps. And what I want to do is help the world to get rid of maps like this. You've all seen them, right? Maps like this, maps like this, maps like this. You go to a government website, typically you see a map like this. Now, why do we have maps like this? I get a theory, it's because they're designed by a committee. And everybody puts in what they want the map to do, and they put out a request for tender, and people build the map to the tender, and it looks like this, and it's a success. Well, I think that's wrong. So let's look at some of those maps, and let's look at simple ways that we can make them a little bit better. A map like this, you typically have a really, really complicated dialogue just to navigate the map. So you zoom in, you zoom out, you navigate, you pan. They all have separate tools. So let's look at a better way of doing it. A better way is to let the map itself control the navigation. Now, if you've used Google Maps, you know that that's the way it works. You don't need a tool to pan, you simply pan. You don't need a tool to zoom in, you simply double click. Now, we can do a little bit better than the base Google Maps. Sometimes you often see a little navigation control that people add to Google Maps. A waste of time. Take it away. Get rid of it. What's the point? What about if you could add shortcuts to the mapping engine itself? What if you could zoom in directly to Sydney by zooming in like this? Whoa, how cool is that? What if we could zoom in by using a shortcut key? What if we could go back to the previous extent or forward to the next extent, just like you can with a web browser? Why can't we add those kind of controls into the mapping API? Yeah, how cool is that? Make it easier to find information. On most maps, you need to choose the identify tool, and then you click on the map, and it runs a query and says what's there, and then it tells you the result. You click over here, and it runs a query and tells you the result. You click here, it still runs a query, and then it says there's no result. What about a better way? What if we made the features themselves intelligent? What if, whoa, look at that. As I'm mousing over the features, they're highlighting. Why can't the feature have intelligence? So build that into the map. You don't need to have a separate identify tool to do that. Often you'll go to a map and you'll click. So this is a census map showing me the median ages, and I click on it and that's what I get. A whole lot of boring, irrelevant metadata about the CD code, the STE name, the SLA code. You told me it was going to be the median ages, so that's what you should show me. Here's a much better example, suburban trends. You click on a feature and it doesn't give you a bunch of meaningless numbers. It tells you, is it higher or lower than the neighboring suburb? That's what you need to know, so interpret the results for your users. Simplify the data. So here's a map from The Guardian showing the location of the riots that happened last month. Guardian do some awesome stuff, but this map's a little bit hard to understand what's going on. There's a whole lot of points of information. Here's a better way of showing exactly the same information. So we can see here, we've got a whole bunch of incidents happening in London. We can see here we've got a whole bunch of incidents happening in South London. As I'm zooming in, we're getting more and more information being shown. So don't try and show everything in one map. Bring the information in as it's relevant. Here's an example here from Wikipedia. This is showing 2 million points of Wikipedia articles. You can't really do the same kind of clustering because that all takes place on the user's browser. So there are other ways of doing that, maybe a heat map, where you can see instantly where there's hotspots of information. So a heat map's another idea. Now, all those maps I showed tried to cram in so much information, so many tools and functions that they became just unusable. So what about making maps that are specific to the purpose you're trying to do? New York Times do an awesome example here where they're just showing where Black, White, Hispanic, and Asian people live, just as dots on a map. That's all it does. Statement Maps do some awesome crime mapping where, because it's very specific to crime, they can give you some tools that help you to analyze crime. Now, they're so specific that they give you one for Oakland and a separate map for San Francisco. So be very, very specific. All right, so here I have been ranting and raving about all these other maps that suck. Let me tell you about the map that I've been trying to do with my colleagues Danny Savick and Tim Lucas. You might know as Toolman Tim. So this is the app that we put together called Atlas of New South Wales. 1 minute, thank you. So what it is a whole bunch of articles and information about New South Wales. So we'll go into one of these articles here. And these are articles that have been written by experts telling us all about New South Wales. What I want to do is jump into the article on population. You can read it there. And then jump into the map. Now here's where it really comes down. This is the map that we've tried to put all of those little tips and tricks into place. And hopefully if my iPhone holds up, we'll see a map. We need Wi-Fi here, Maxine. All right, trying again. What I've tried to do here is that you'll notice when the map loads, there's no controls to zoom or pan or navigate. That's just part of the map, just properties of the map. So as I zoom in here, it just works. When I click on a feature, I don't get a whole bunch of boring metadata. I simply get a chart which tells me a bit about the feature. So it's a population map. Tell me about the population. Let me change the map to something like the national parks. What this is going to show me is the boundaries of the national parks in this location here. When I zoom back out, I see the clusters of national parks. Does that mean time's up? All right, so let me jump back in here and just say, if you like that, have a look. Go to atlas.nsw.gov.au. If you like it, send us maybe a tweet and tell us what you think. There's a little bit about the technology that we're using, written in JavaScript with the Esri ArcGIS Server API. Thank you.